Guys, today we are going to talk about the properties of math, and a couple of them are going to be a review, but there's going to be some new ones. And the I can statement we're working on is I can identify when two expressions are equivalent. So at the end of this week, the FA you're going to be taking is going to be similar to some of the questions you took last week, where you are looking at an expression and seeing which other expressions in a list fit with that or mean the same thing, okay? So here we go. Let's first review some properties we already know, okay? You guys know the commutative property, which means that you are moving numbers. So Jacob has a 10-minute commute to school. He is moving from his house to his school. So commutative means travel. So the numbers are going to travel or move, like 3 plus 4 equals 4 plus 3. 7 times 8 equals 8 times 7. It only works with addition and multiplication. We also know about the associative property. We've talked about that this year. So Elena likes to associate with everyone and switches lunch tables often. So first she's with this group of students over here, and maybe she moves over and goes with that group of students. So the grouping changes, but the values do not change, or the value of each side or each expression. So it works again with addition and multiplication, not subtraction or division. We also very recently talked about the distributive property. The teacher distributed papers to the class. Now each student has one. So in this one, the number outside of the parentheses gets distributed by multiplication to every number inside the parentheses, okay? Now with this one, in the parentheses, you can have addition, or you can also have subtraction, and that would be fine. The identity property is one that you may have seen before. You get what you started with. So in addition, 3 plus 0 is 3, so adding 0 doesn't change the value of your expression. And in multiplication, multiplying by 1 does not change the value of your expression. Okay, so take a second, and in the summary portion of your WSQ, give an example of the identity property of addition and multiplication and label it. You're going to need it later on. The zero property, you may have heard of this one too. Anything multiplied by 0 equals 0. So it doesn't matter what number you multiply by 0. Again, write zero property in your WSQ and give an example. This one only works for multiplication. Additive inverse, this is another one you're going to want to put in your WSQ, in your summary. Additive inverse says adding opposites will always equal 0, and we are going to talk about negative numbers very soon, starting next week actually. So if I owe someone $3 and I give them the $3, now I don't owe them anything, so I get 0. So if I take a negative number and add it with a positive, I end up getting 0. So that's what additive inverse tells us. So go ahead and write an example in your summary next to the title, additive inverse. Okay, multiplicative inverse, we've talked about this year already. Multiplicative inverse is multiplying reciprocals. And when you do that, you get 1. So 4 times 1/4 equals 4 over 4, which equals 1. Go ahead and write an example of multiplicative inverse in your summary. So now we're going to take those examples that you wrote in your summary. You're going to want to use those for the practice. I'm going to give you an expression, and then you are going to click what property it's showing. Number 1, which property is shown? Okay, let's check your work. Distributive property. We are distributing this 2 to everything inside the parentheses. Okay, which property is this? It's the identity property. When I add 0 or multiply by 1 to any number, I'm going to get that number. Which property? It's the commutative property. Which property is being shown? The zero property. Which property is shown below? The associative property. Notice the order of these numbers, 574, 574, did not change, only the grouping. Which property is shown below? The inverse property. This would be the multiplicative inverse because we are multiplying. Which property is shown below? Once again, this is the additive inverse property or the inverse property. All right, we're done with this video. You can go back and watch any portion as many times as you need, but don't forget to have a good summary of these properties because we'll be using them this week.